From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Tiger Cats Game Day with Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly.
Welcome to Tiger Cats Game Day, presented by Tiffany Gate Fresh Gourmet on the Ticats Audio Network. It is week 9 and Montreal is coming to town today to play the 3 and 4 Hamilton Tiger Cats. Montreal second in the East Division, Hamilton third in the East Division. This one's going to be a great one. My name is Courtney Stephen, joined as always by my co-pilot Mike Daly. Mike, this game is shaping up to be something that is very important just because of how the East has developed. The East is the stronger of the two divisions this year, statistically speaking, in the win and loss column. So how does this game fit into the fabric of the 2023 season?
Well, with Montreal and Hamilton so close, it's, the season series is up for grabs with this one, because if Montreal wins that, and because they're so close with Hamilton, like we've been talking about this all year, right? With the East Division games early on, it's going to matter a lot come down the road, where you're going to look back on it come playoff time, where your seating is going to be, all that kind of stuff. And you're going to start thinking like, oh man, that second Montreal game was a really, really big one, because that determined whether we were second, third, or even moving into the crossover if that happens, right? From the East to the West, which for you and I is unheard of to think of, right? But the biggest, like with them being so close and these games, these division games being so early, this one's really going to matter, especially to make sure that Montreal doesn't get that tiebreaker, right? So that if at the end of the year, like we see all the time, the records are the same, well, then it won't go to the edge of Montreal to win that tiebreaker. So this is a big one for the Ticats, and nice and early on, and a good little test to see how they can pull it out.
Yeah, I honestly would be so excited to talk about crossover scenarios going the opposite direction. But I think we still got a few more weeks before that becomes something we need to discuss. So let's just talk about when Montreal and Hamilton faced off the first time this season. That was back in week 3. Montreal came out victorious 38-12 in that game. Cody Fajardo had 292 yards passing and a rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. The Tiger Cats were held to 4 field goals and no touchdowns, despite Matt Shields going for 345 yards. That game was one that was kind of representative of how these teams have both been playing this season. They move the ball, they do things, but really the things that make both of these teams go, I'd say, is the defense. Can we start in any one of these positions? Let's start with Montreal on offense and just kind of take a look at them. They've got Stanback, Austin Mack, Fajardo. There's a lot of weapons over there. How does Montreal attack the Hamilton defense today?
Yeah, I mean, you looked at that game with Montreal versus Hamilton, the last one that they had, right? And that was really the kind of the end of how productive Montreal's offense was being. You know what I mean? As of late, they just haven't been doing very well, and it's clearly been the defense that's been holding them in games and at least letting them win. I think it's 3 touchdowns in the last 6 games is a stat that I read on this defense, and you do that enough times, you're going to win some games. Just look at the last game with Hamilton, right? When Hamilton's defense played like that against Ottawa and completely shut down Ottawa's offense, you're going to put yourself in some games. So that's kind of the Montreal's team's makeup right now, is that this defense is holding them in games. But looking at the Montreal offense as I drop my microphone, looking at the Montreal offense, Austin Mack is 4th in the league in receiving. So it's not like they don't have weapons on that side, right? Stanback kind of got it going last week, got close to 100 yards, hasn't hit that mark yet, but they're going to be starting to feed him a little bit more as this offense is still sputtering along, right? But Austin Mack is definitely a weapon that they have, but they will miss Keon Julian Grant, who will be out this game. But that being said, a guy like Tyson Philpott, who, Court, you and I know we're high on him because of the dynamic athletic ability that he has, he's going to take over that spot. So this Montreal offense is going to rely a lot on Stanback, I think, but when you got a guy like Tyson Philpott, Austin Mack out there, Cody's going to air it out once and twice whenever he sees fit, I think.
Yeah, and this Montreal offense last week, they were victorious over Calgary. We know that Hamilton was victorious over their last opponent as well. So both teams have a little bit of momentum, but in last week's battle against Calgary, Montreal, 158 passing yards. So to your point, the offense was getting it done earlier in the season, and now they were kind of just squeaking over the bar and doing what they needed to do to win. But as one of my mentors in the business tells me, it's not what is it? They don't ask you how many, they just ask you if you win or not. No, they don't ask how much, they just ask how many. I think that's how it is. I gotta go ask him again.
You were listening to the meeting.
Right, I need to bring my notepad to the meetings more often. But yeah, they don't care like if you win by 50 or you win by 5. They just care if you win in this league, right? So we'll see how that plays out. Another guy on that Montreal offense I'm interested to see, Hergy Mayala, another Canadian receiver who played his career early in Calgary, then came over, a couple years ago. And he's been a guy who, shows up now and then on the film. He's a little bit of a bigger guy, and he's got great hands. So he would be able to potentially step in also and fill some of the void that is left by Keon Julian Grant. So it'll be interesting to see how Montreal decides to spread the ball around on offense. But the veteran standback, we know what he can do if he gets going. And I know that the Tiger Cats will have a game plan to keep him bottled up. Let's talk about the Ticats offense. I think we've buried the lead enough. We know this week who the main character of this storyline is for the Ticats offense, and that's Taylor Powell. He is the rookie quarterback who's coming in, and there's been a lot of buzz around Tiger Town about this guy. As far as they've been saying in practices, he's been looking phenomenal. In training camp, they were high on him. When you get down to your third string quarterback, I don't know if it's just blind optimism or if, this guy is as advertised. But, when I watch him in practice, the guy looks good. Are you looking for Taylor Powell to step in and be one of those quarterbacks who really can grab the reins and do this thing?
It's tough, right? Because it's his second start this year, so it's not like you can lean on him completely, at least early on. If this is a long-term thing, then yeah, at some point you're going to want to see these slow progressions. But we talk about it all the time where it's quarterbacks that are young early on in their careers. It takes a long time to get used to this league, right? Now Chad Kelly is on the one side of it where he's been doing pretty well, but it does take a long time to get used to this league. So you're going to have to lean on some other people on the team, and we keep saying it, right, Court? We keep saying it week in and week out. Is James Butler is one of those guys that you can lean on right now. The problem with that is that absolutely mind-blowing stat stood out to me, and it was since that Edmonton game, James Butler has been held to 1.9 yard rush average. 1.9. I'll tell you what, 2nd and 8 is not a good situation for a young quarterback to be in, right? So you get in this world where one of your best players in James Butler that you have, that's somebody that you want to be able to lean on, only has 1.9 yards rushing on average. So now Tommy Condell is sitting there going, well, do I do this? Do I try to hand the ball off to James Butler and put Taylor Powell in a 2nd and long situation? Or do we just start airing it out like we saw in that Ottawa game where it's like, okay, we're not going to be able to run the ball. Let's just throw this thing out there. And Bo Levi Mitchell was kind of doing well early on. But that's where this is going to be a tough decision for Tommy Condell in this offense is, what kind of stuff do you do? And we've talked about before, like some misdirection type stuff. But how do you feel that they go with Taylor Powell here and with James Butler kind of sputtering at the moment?
Well, in a few of the games that the Ticats have played this season, I felt like they've come out early in the game and they've been real methodical about their passes. And it's been short to intermediate passes, try to move the ball down the field. They've put together some, multi-play drives. And I feel like that's been the first quarter for a lot of these games. And then as the game progresses and goes on, they get to basically their old bag of tricks, which is we're going to run the screen game. We're going to throw the deep ball. And then outside of that, it's going to be, sleight of hand, show you this, give you that, QB run over here, a little bit of things that get the defense moving in one direction, and then they throw the ball the other direction. Now, I think they've been successful in doing each of the above. I mean, Kai Loxley takes a screen pass 75 yards for a touchdown last week and basically took all the haters of the screen game and told them to, to shove it. So that obviously works as part of the game plan. And then you had Duke Williams catch a 50-50 style, like fade ball, corner ball for a touchdown, which I think personally is their best strategy, is when they get in situations where they need chunks, or if they're in the red zone and they're close to scoring points, I think that's when they need to go to the receivers, who are the big guys who can go up there and just make something happen. Because if Taylor Powell needs to throw perfect passes, it's going to be really hard for him when he's throwing against guys like Deontay Evans. Because if the ball is a little bit off and you're throwing the ball at a receiver who is a smaller receiver, who isn't necessarily designed or built for winning those contested 50-50 balls, a guy like Deontay is going to come away with those interceptions at least 50% of the time, because those are true 50-50 balls, unless you take advantage of the big bodies of the guys like Duke Williams. So I would love to see Duke, who's been heating up lately, I'd love to see Duke get more attempts at catching those balls that are kind of just chunked up, and I call them make a play balls. Yeah. Where sometimes you just ask the receiver, like, listen, I know this isn't perfect, but if you can catch this, then you can have a place in this offense, and your role will continue to expand. And that's what I see for a guy like Duke Williams. But talking about expanding, let's talk about Taylor Powell and how he can expand his role on this team. What does it really, what do you prepare for if you're him, right? In his press conference this week, he was saying that he wasn't really trying to do anything different, just do the same thing. He said, keep beating the stone, just like chop wood, just kind of show up and do the right things. How does he mentally approach this game? Because, we look at some of the quarterbacks who are in this league. Most of these guys start as backups. Zach Calero's backed up Ricky Ray. Jeremiah backed up Zach. Cody Fajardo backed up Pete. Like, everybody was a backup, right? How does Taylor Powell transition to a guy who's like a brand name in this league? Yeah,
I mean, I don't think he'll just show up to a game by hitting a stone and be able to throw the ball and make some completions, right? That's the old media talk right there, right? But what that does mean, and what I think he's got the right mind space with, is he's just got to go to work. Every play, what you have to understand is every single play has reads, right? So if you can minimize that entire play call down to, okay, this is what I have to do. I have to see what the corner's doing. Is the corner looking like he's going high? If he looks like he's going high, then I should have this flat route, or the 1 yard out route open, where I can throw it to my guy. He can turn upfield and get a little bit of yak, kind of get some more yards. And then the next play is like, okay, now I'm reading the halfback. Is the halfback low? Does he look like he's in zone? Or does he look like he's in man? Okay, he's in man. I should have this corner route or something like that, right? That's really the whole synopsis of football right there. One play at a time, where you're just doing your job. And I think what Taylor Powell has to do, what he's kind of going to figure out as time goes on, is it's just minimizing all of the noise, all the stuff going on, down to, okay, what's my read here? I remember in practice and meetings, all that kind of stuff, this is my read. So I think that's what he's doing. When he says he's doing, one step at a time, he just knows what the play is, he knows what his read should be, and he's going to end up putting it out there. Now, that being said, it's obviously not easy for everybody, but that last game that he did start, I thought he did pretty well, right? He was over 250 passing. He had the one interception, but he threw it 41 times. If you're going to throw 41 times, I think you're going to have a couple interceptions. But so I thought he did like decently well there, just couldn't find the end zone in it, right? So you're right. These guys like Duke Williams, now like a Kai Loxley, who's also, a taller, lankier individual who will be able to make those tough catches and obviously take it to the house. These guys are going to have to help them out, right? Now the nice thing is that Hamilton's offensive line, who, I feel like it was always last year we were talking about how many switch-ups there were, how many injuries there were. It's actually kind of settling in a little bit, and they're playing really well, right? They're going to protect Taylor Powell against a Montreal defense who does not get sacks. This is kind of one of those situations right now, if trends stay trends, where Taylor Powell will have a lot of time back in that pocket, and he'll be able to make these reads, these simple reads without being rushed or having to get out of there. So, I want to say wishful thinking, Court, but you never want to set expectations. But it is definitely wishful thinking that Taylor Powell might have a little bit of a breakout game here.
And it would be awesome. Definitely looking for that offensive line anchored by the setter and David Beard to have a great performance. The Ticats, they haven't really let up a ton of sacks this year, and Montreal hasn't really got a ton of sacks this year. I think Montreal has only had 10 sacks as a defense. That ranks them last in the CFL. And Ticats offense is fourth. They've allowed, I believe, 22 sacks. So that bodes well for the young quarterback to stand in there tall and deliver. I think if he can stay upright, that's half of the battle. Because, field position, setting him up in opportunities where he has a chance to be successful, and then also keeping him upright so that he can stand and deliver the way that they do in practice. Those are two ingredients to a Ticats win today if they do want to pull this one out in this very pivotal division game. So let's talk about that field position. Actually, Bailey Flint has been a guy who was recognized recently, I think 2 weeks ago, as like one of the Pro Football Focus players of the week for the way that he's been punting the ball. And I mean, the best way for the Ticats, who I won't say they have a dominant offense yet, they've got all of the pieces to put it together as far as like Tim, Duke and Terry, James Butler, offensive line that's starting to click. But getting the ball in, plus territory, which would be over center field, and meaning like heading in towards the opponent's offense when they even take possession of the ball, those kinds of things are set up by great punts, great coverage, which they've had on their special teams units, and then go 2 and out on defense or go 4 and out on defense, and then have a nice return. Also bring the ball closer to that opponent's goal line before the offense even takes the field. Situations like that what Jeff Reinbold would call complementary football, I think that is what really would give this offense for the Ticats the greatest chance to be successful, is if the special teams can really set the table. Who are the stars of this Hamilton special teams? Who would you be looking to kind of crack this game open? I know we've talked about a few guys this year, but who are you excited to see?
Yeah, well, the easy answer is Tyreek McAllister, right? To be able to hit a big return. Because you look back at that Ottawa game, and Ottawa was ranked first in their punt coverage unit. So you're sitting there going, okay, well, this is going to be kind of a wash on special teams because they're both good at covering. They're both decent at returning the ball. And Hamilton completely took over that special teams game, right? Which, when you look at the stat line, you might not see, right, unless you're really paying close attention while watching the game. But when you talk about these close games, like it was Ottawa on that last play on the knockdown with Casey Sales, like these, you're absolutely right, Court. The field position matters immensely, right? Because it's going to get you those field goals if your offense is sputtering. You're going to get in those good situations if the defense can stop Montreal's offense. Kind of we call the score zone from the 20-yard, Montreal's 20 yards back to their own end zone, because if they have to punt it from there, you're already in Mark Leggio field position, even if Tyreek McAllister catches the ball and falls down, right, with a 0-yard return. It's long field goal, but you're already in scoring position. So this game, I'm looking for that exact same thing, right? Montreal's cover teams are good. They've always been good. This year they're doing very well. They have some good players that make plays out there, but so is Hamilton's, right? So it's one of those ones where Hamilton's special teams is going to have to step up, like a guy like Flowers Lloyd, who's going to end up being the guy that's usually the first one down, making most of the tackles, right? Another guy I saw make a ton of tackles last game was Bailey Feltmate, right? Bigger body that's protected Bailey Flint, like you said, and making a few plays. But the biggest thing here is that if you want to help Taylor Powell out and this offense out and get them into scoring position early, then a guy like Tyreek McAllister is going to have to step up, right? These guys that are blocking for him are going to have to step up. And that's I think when you look at this game, whoever wins this battle on the punt return, the field position battle, that kind of stuff, is going to come out with this win. Because like I say this all the time, when there's two sputtering offenses like there are right now, that field position is going to matter big time.
And for those of you keeping track at home, Mark Leggio is still 100% kicking field goals this year. I feel like this is secretly my favorite storyline to watch. I love a good kicking battle. I love to watch the touchdowns, don't get me wrong, but just when the kicker goes out there and your kicker gives you the confidence that like you're gonna get points, that's just a different feeling, man. It's a great feeling to know that no drive shall be wasted, because in the first game when these two teams played, Ticats went into the red zone 2 times, 0 touchdowns, ended up getting 4 field goals in that game. I know we want to see touchdowns in this game, but I feel it just gives me a little bit of confidence knowing how strong the Ticats special teams units as a whole have been playing, especially when you got guys like Chandler Worthy, Tyson Philpott on the other side, 2 firecrackers who can really get it done in the return game. So we'll definitely need to see all those Ticats special teamers on their P's and Q's. So as we're getting closer to wrapping this one, let's talk about some matchups in this game. Now, I don't know if you have a matchup that you're excited about in this one, but if somebody's in the crowd and they're watching and they haven't been keeping up to this point in the year, who would be a matchup in this game that you would want to put the camera on and just watch?
Yeah, I think when you look at like I said, Austin Mack, fourth in the CFL in receiving. If and when Cody is going to have to throw the ball and drop back after Ticats stuff, stand back in the run, which I think is going to be a main focus of theirs, right? Is making sure that Cody doesn't run around, because I think he's second or third on their team in rushing, so it's kind of like not like a crumb situation, but pretty close. So I think that's kind of going to be the Ticats defensive focus. So that being said, once both teams realize what's going on and they're stacking the box against these guys, it's going to go up to Austin Mack. So I think when you look at Kenneth George Jr., who will see the majority of Austin Mack throughout the game, I think that's where my matchup focus is going to be, because like I said, I do think the Ticats defense is sitting in meetings right now talking about how we have to stop Stanback, how we have to stop Cody Fajardo from running around, make sure that he can't escape the pocket too much, and like we had been talking about with some of these other quarterbacks, make them sit there in the pocket, dissect the defense, and throw it to the right person, right? And I think that's kind of going to be the Ticats defensive game plan. So look for Kenneth George Jr. to get a lot of action with Austin Mack, right? Because they're going to lean on him a ton. So that's where my first matchup's going to go for sure.
And I'm excited to see Kendrick Sartor and Brandon Kemp go up against Sean Lemon, who is... Sean Lemon is, for those who haven't been paying attention, he is on his Kevin Glenn tour, and he is attempting to play for every single team in the CFL. I think the last stop he would have to make is in Hamilton, actually, if he was to complete the circuit. But he's a guy, defensive end, one of the all-time leading sack getters. He's up there on the list as far as production from that defensive end spot. He's a guy with a high motor. He's also I think he gets to the quarterback in ways where even if he doesn't get a sack, he can be disruptive. And so we talked about keeping Taylor Powell upright, but also, as Coach O says, being close counts. So you have to keep the line of sight clear for a quarterback to be able to deliver the ball. You have to, keep him planted when he throws, because when you're throwing on the move is different than throwing from a standing position where your feet are set and you can deliver an accurate pass. So I'll be interested to see the offensive tackles for the Ticats versus this new shiny toy that the Montreal defense has gotten. And also inside, David Beard and Mondo Sewell. I think that'll be a good matchup. Mondo's a big vet in this league, but he can tend to be a little bit top heavy and lean on a smaller, weaker, less nourished offensive lineman. And so David Beard, I saw him getting in his rounds of lunch this week. I think he'll be prepped and ready to go for that matchup. An interesting one. And then, finally, who would be one player that you want to watch this week and, just see how they can bring the game into their own and take over? I personally think it would have to be, well, for me, Taylor Powell. But is there anybody else who you'd want to highlight this game?
Well, and Court, just to finish off the point on Sean Lemon and, why old pass rusher is able to still kind of keep doing it. Think of it like when you're playing one of those old guys in basketball that just have all the fundamentals down, right? Can hit the hook shots, can hit the fadeaways, barely walk around, right? But they can get in there and they'll put up 20 on you in a game because they just know how to play the game. That is pass rushing. Pass rushing is such a skill in football where it's like, yes, it's great to be super athletic and explosive, but Sean Lemon has those little tricks down that you're just not really sure it's going to whoop, 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 and then he's gone, right? So he will be a good test for them. But like I said, this offensive line has been playing really well, and it's going to be a big key to keep Taylor Powell standing and being able to look where he needs to and deliver the ball. When I started looking at this game, somebody to focus on a little bit more is I do want to go back to Duke Williams, and not because of the reason we talked about. What Duke Williams does, and the reason that he is a huge pickup, and we were both really high on him when the Ticats picked him up and knew that they would help out the offense. But what you're starting to see Duke Williams do more and more of, and he's very good at it, is blocking the run game. So start paying attention to when Duke gets around the box, when he gets around all the big boys and the offensive linemen. A lot of the runs that James Butler is breaking, and he has, is Duke Williams sealing a guy. And by sealing, it means, just kind of cutting him off, getting in the way, being kind of strong enough, setting a pick, right? Sealing a guy like a Sean Lemon. He's getting in there and he's hitting some of these ends. He's getting up there working to some of these linebackers. And when he does it, it's fun to watch because he is a violent individual and he is a competitive individual. And I think when you look at trying to get this run game going a little bit, Duke Williams, along with that offensive line, but Duke Williams is one of these guys that is going to bring a defender into the box. He's going to take a bigger body out of the play, like blocking a Sean Lemon. And he's going to now put one of these, Court, I hate when I have to say this because we were both DBs, but he's going to put these little DBs into the box. And now they're going to have to tackle a James Butler one-on-one, right, as opposed to it being a defensive lineman or a linebacker. So that's where I'm looking because of Duke Williams and his run blocking, because we all know what he can do in the pass game, but he's really kind of developed into this all-around receiver.
Yeah, and I think also on the Kai Loxley, and if we rewind a few weeks and go back to that Tyreek McAllister screen pass that also skated out for like 40-plus yards and a touchdown, both of those explosive plays were cracked open by solid receiver blocks downfield, and then all it takes is for that ball carrier to make one defender miss a tackle or force them to have a bad angle by changing speed or changing the direction they're going, and that becomes an explosive play. And we know that this Ticats offense loves an explosive play because all of their touchdowns come from outside the red zone. So, hey, it makes for exciting football, and I love it. I'll be the first person to tell you, hey, score from 40, score from 50, score from 60 if you so dare. I'm there for all of it. And if you don't score, we're going to call Legio to let that thing swing, and he's going to hit it from marksman distance. So, they're not going to ask us how. They just want to know how many wins we're going to get in Tiger Town. And today, looking to go 500, the Hamilton Tiger Cats set to take on the Montreal Alouettes, 7 p.m. kickoff at Tim Hortons Field for this East Division battle. This is the second tilt between the Ticats and the Alouettes. And if you can't be here, you can catch it on listen.ticats.ca. As always, Luke Tasker, RJ Broadhead, they've got the call for you. And if you haven't checked that out, honestly, listen to the Ticats audio network. Even if you're in the stadium or if you're on your way to the game, listen.ticats.ca has got you, and we can get you ready with Andy and Bubba on the pregame as well. So lots of exciting action tonight going down in the CFL. I'll be there. Mike, I know you'll be there. So I can't wait to see it, man. And if you are listening, we appreciate you. And until next week, we hope you have a great game day.
It's game day and you're ready. So are we. Let us know your thoughts. Email us at gameday@ticats.ca. Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly are here every game day with their insights into today's game. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.